everybody, and welcome back to our predictions and speculation videos for whatever TV show is coming out this month. It will be Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we will be talking about Episode 3 predictions and speculations here, which comes out on midnight on Wednesday morning. Before we get started, please hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channel for Star Wars content minimum 5 days a week. If you haven't checked out all of our Star Wars Celebration coverage, we've posted stuff almost every day of the celebration. You can check out our review for Obi-Wan Kenobi episodes 1 and 2. You also check out our reactions to Obi-Wan Kenobi, some of our reactions to the other panels. Mandalorian Season 3 trailer, 2 versions of it, Ahsoka trailer. We covered all the book and novel news and comic news, High Republic news. So we've covered basically everything. Jedi Survivor trailer. Everything has been covered by us on our channel, so check out one of our recap videos or reaction videos that are on our channel. There will be a link to Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 1 and 2 reviews in this video as well. So now, to get into predictions and speculation, there's a lot to predict and speculate, but also I feel like it is relatively straightforward where this next episode is going. I don't think there's cliffhangers, but there's not any teases too much for the future. I think that's also indicative of the time period we're in, where, you know, when we're talking Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett, we don't know what's coming next because we don't really know what's going to happen to the characters. Here we know Obi-Wan survives, we know Leia survives, we know stuff like that is going to happen. But obviously we get the reveal of Darth Vader in the last shot of the episode. I think we are going to see him at least next episode. I think we'll see at least probably that sequence where he's getting suited up.
Connected, all put together,
Yeah, I think something like that. I don't know how much Vader will actually get of him in action. I feel like maybe him in a hologram making himself known, but I think this would be the episode to get the Anakin and Obi-Wan Clone Wars flashback, or any type of flashback for Anakin and Obi-Wan, because of the way Obi-Wan is so shaken at the end of episode 2 when he's on that transport with Leia and he's just like, he can't believe Anakin's alive, and when you hear Leia asking him, you know, what's wrong, it's like a war movie where it's just all white noise. He's not hearing her. He's just so in his head. Everything is tuning out for him. He's just completely absorbed by the fact that he thought he killed his best friend after failing his best friend and letting him fall to the dark side and killing almost all the Jedi. And now he finds out that he didn't even defeat his friend. Like, he didn't kill this guy. He didn't finish the job. So anything bad that's happening is also on his conscience in the last 10 years now. I can't wait to see how heavily that weighs on him. Hopefully there's enough time to breathe and really reflect on that. I'd honestly be okay with the slower moving episode because episode 2 is so fast paced. I'd love to see some flashbacks, some really deep dives into Anakin and Obi-Wan. Maybe some stuff that allows us to reflect on what that truly means to Obi-Wan. But yeah, I think we're getting our first full Vader at some point at the end of this episode.
Yeah, I want to say that less is more when it comes to Vader. This is going to be an event series. It's going to be huge no matter what when they eventually duel and whatnot. Maybe they do a couple times, skirmishes, before they actually have a big battle. Who knows? I have trust in Deborah after these 2 episodes. Like, as much as I was already confident in her, especially after episode 3 and episode 7? No.
6.
6 episode.
No, 7. Yeah, 7 of season 1.
Season 1, yeah. I was confident, right? But, like, now I'm like, we've seen the product. It's great. Even the Grand Inquisitor looks a lot better. Just some of these angles. I guess Rupert Friend's jawline already. Something must be kind of where it's a little harder to play off that character. But otherwise, every element was great to me. But going back to the less is more thing, I want to say we're going to get the suit up. I feel like that could be a pretty strong cold open, right? Because it seems like when they end the episode, it's like eye level matching. We see Obi-Wan maybe like a little bit past his chest. Anakin, we don't see anything but his head and like a little bit of his shoulder, so they're trying to kind of match that. And maybe we just start off with him. Maybe we get a little bit more of an Imperial angle, Mustafaran angle, where he's at his castle. And we see that shot where, in the promos, where he's standing at that Bacta tank that he uses in Rogue One as well. Either way, excited to see that. I think we'll see him take a little bit of time. It feels like, I don't know if he'll even, it seems like they sense each other at the end. So maybe Vader goes for him, but I almost want to say that Obi-Wan after maybe this whole episode, like you said, maybe he has flashbacks, maybe he drops off Leia and then talks and sits down with, Bail and says like, I thought I finished it. Like maybe he needs to hear someone else first and to like revitalize him, to give him a little bit of spark. Because right now he's just purely shaken. And we saw a little bit of like the banterous side of him, like the little humorous, devilish charm that he usually kind of has. But then once that he realizes it's just kicking in because of what Reva says, like he is having like a PTSD. He's having the 1,000-mile stare, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love this to be a slower episode because the first two were already meaty enough.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what Reva's doing because she did something pretty freaking big.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just say it. She just stabbed the Grand Inquisitor in the abs. And someone told us that the Utapauans have 2 stomachs. That still doesn't make it any less damaging of a blow. And we know he's in Rebels. There's no way they're going to retcon Rebels, so...
He's not dead.
Yeah.
I think we'll get... I think that'll probably end up getting briefly glossed over. Be like, oh, he's still alive, but Reva, what'd you do? Like, get a stern talking to, but because it's Kenobi, maybe Vader gets her out of the situation. Maybe it's her way of, finally getting to Vader and being like, she obviously really wants to be the top dog.
She gets to kind of like maybe do like a task force like to chase him down.
Exactly. Yeah, it looks like she's assembling them. We get to see all of that, and I do think Vader. It would be such a sweet cold opening to have Obi-Wan maybe dreaming or something, where we saw his like whole prequel flashback dream.
Yeah.
In the first episode, maybe something like that, where we see a full scene of Anakin and Obi-Wan together, and then as it's starting to end, we start to see Anakin's image, turn into the one on that's on fire.
Yeah.
And then Obi-Wan's, like tossing and turning or something, that cuts to Vader getting out of the tank, being assembled, and then you see him in the full costume. Yeah, something like that would be an awesome cold opening. I think Vader ultimately is tied into this because of whatever is being done to Reva as punishment for what she does to the Grand Inquisitor. She might also just be off on her own, but it seems like from what we still seen from the trailers, which I would assume would be at least in this episode and not in later episodes, I would assume that she goes back with the Inquisitors in this one.
She's not like disconnected. She might eventually, just based on her personality so far, the way she's been interacting, kind of more contentiously than the other Inquisitors, who are always contentious, but I guess she's a step above. A key point that I really say is like, you're like the runt, you're never like a Jedi like us, she's just Force trained, so she's not one of those younglings that we see in the cold open at the beginning of the Order 66 flashback.
Or at least not when they find her.
At least not when they find her.
She might be hiding, and one of them who hid and then eventually gets found by the Inquisitors. It could be something like that.
It could. Really, we don't know much about her yet. There really wasn't any kind of backstory other than that flashback, and then Obi-Wan's just nightmares of the past all kind of coalescing together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe the Grand Inquisitor is fine, and I will say,
him.
Yeah, I feel like the Fennec thing, I don't really want to see Thundercat again, I'll say that. I enjoyed his first cameo, but then it became a second cameo, and then it became an epilogue.
Tatooine with the Grand Inquisitor, fix him.
It's just hilarious. I love the guy, but I think I'm good with what he's had in here.
Oh, God.
I think it kind of comes back to the line where, at the end of Rebels, before he falls down to his death, says there are things that are worse than death. Far worse than death, right? And that we find that in the comics, Vader keeps him alive as like this weird forced premonition. Like he's not exactly a ghost, but he's suffering through this like purgatory that he's stuck in. Maybe perhaps that he does get healed per se, but it's gonna be like not necessarily mechanical, but it's gonna be painful. I feel like Vader, we see him in Charles Soule and all that. He cuts off so many people's arms. And assumably they get their arms back as mech arms and all that. So maybe he does the same sort of thing with the Grand Inquisitor, but it's very painful. It's like he forces everyone to relive how he was assembled. I'd love to see him forcibly squeeze and shut and seal a wound, almost burning with his hand or whatever. I don't know, something crazy like that. just to show that, like, yeah, there are things that, you know, you would have preferred death to than Vader healing you in his way, right? So maybe it's like that. Do you think we're done with Leia in the next episode?
Yeah, that was the last, I think, major talking point I wanted to bring up. I don't think we're done with her, but I think that story is going to start transitioning out. I think it will transition into probably more Bail involvement than Leia.
Yeah.
But also, I kind of don't want her to be done because she's so good.
So good,
The actress that plays her is so good. I love her scenes. But obviously, this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And I do want, or I'd rather see Obi-Wan. If there's one character I'd rather see than Leia right now, I think it would be Obi-Wan. But man, I'm pretty excited. But also, yeah, the transport they're on, Kumail Nanjiani's character, I forgot what his name was. I think it was Aja or something like that.
Haja.
Haja.
Yeah.
Haja. He said that it's pre-programmed to go to some planet, and that he was like, "Oh, people will help you," almost like some type of rebel group, or early rebel group. So I don't think they're immediately meeting back up with Bail. So I think we're at least getting one more episode that has, I would guess probably like 60-75% Leia in it.
Yeah.
But after this episode, I think she's probably going to reunite with Obi-Wan, unless the whole thing is about Obi-Wan and Leia, which I find would, like, it would be a cool angle because we always think about Obi-Wan and Luke, but at the same time, like, that would be another story in Star Wars where it's like the old guy out of his element with the kid.
Yeah, I mean,
which has been fun for 2 episodes, but I don't know if I want to see it for all 6.
I agree. I would almost prefer if they're going to do it kind of disconnected, where in the end he makes one last pass by Alderaan after already being her getting already picked up by Bail.
Yeah.
And whatever his duel is, and he survives, and then he just tells Bail, like, you know, thank you, and, you know, trusting me, you gave me some purpose again, and then they have a little exchange with him and Leia, and that really solidifies, puts into concrete this, like, trust that Leia has. And, oh, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. I love that. I'd love to have a kid have a little bit of time to think about it. And she's a very smart kid, so I'd love to see her reflect on it instead of just react. And I mean, I love what they have with her. Maybe they have a little slightly older Leia have a connection with Obi-Wan when she's like a teenager or something. Maybe they're trying to push. I feels like, especially with the timing of Jedi Survivor being 5 years after, same time period and all that, maybe they do have Obi-Wan kind of, if this is like the big thing that he does, this event series, makes it seem like, you know, he's dead by the end of it too, that Vader doesn't, or not dead, but like, you know, hiding away in Vader's like, till we meet again. Mm-hmm. Maybe it seems like he works a little bit more discreetly afterwards. It helps out, like, you know, Cal, maybe helps out Leia when she's a junior senator in training. I mean, it feels like they're not going to keep him on the planet, which I'm fine with if it means that this is the big thing and everything else is small, minor. Maybe he has more holograms or advice, that sort of thing.
He's rediscovering who he is. And so I think that type of mission would give him a little bit more perspective to being the Obi-Wan we see in A New Hope, who is relatively cheerful and happy and, you know, accepting of who he is and where he is in life. So I think transitioning from this Obi-Wan to that Obi-Wan, and I think I said it in our review, I think that's the smart decision about the 10-year timeline, is because we can see the man at the end of his grief starting to fully accept who he is, and then now being thrown back into it like Michael Corleone, like being thrown back in. Exactly. And so I think that's kind of what we're going for, and ultimately him being pulled back into the conflict he's trying so hard to avoid is gonna provide him with a new mission that maybe he never really got with that closure. You know, he never really got the full closure he wanted, and this isn't gonna give him closure, but at least it'll give him a path. Right. And that's why Bail and Leia turned to him so quickly in A New Hope. It's like this guy is willing to help. He's out there, and we know we can ask him for help. He's not going to be, because they ask him for help knowing he's committed to Luke, or at least Bail does. And if Obi-Wan had said no multiple times and not been willing to help, I don't know if Bail would have asked again. But that seems to be where we're going.
And I mean, if we do take this episode and it is like some rebel group like Partisans or something, I'd love to just see Forrest Whitaker continue with that, playing Saw till he dies. And if there's a small little reunion of sorts, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to see Obi-Wan's reflection of who Saw is, because everyone's changed, but I think as he's kind of bringing himself a little bit back more into this Obi-Wan figure instead of the Ben Kenobi figure, at least for this situation in hand, seeing Saw, who probably looks up to him, probably has a great deal of respect, and seeing how like extreme and terrorist-like he's become. Mm-hmm. He is a terrorist. But just seeing who he is now, the damage and all that, I feel like if Saw sees Obi-Wan's like disappointment in him, I feel like just one of your inspirations, one of the teachers of you saying like, hey, you're failing a little bit, right? Even if he tries to not make it so severe, that could just take off this guy who's already been in this conflict for so much longer, then would probably get frustrated. Kenobi, what are you doing hiding all this and that, right? Yeah. Maybe he's like, I've experienced other Jedi who have, done their parts, what have you done, right? That sort of thing.
Reference to Cal.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like appropriate if this timing of Survivor and all that. Again, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's about all we can really speculate on, because I think those are the three biggest plot points that are going to be hit. How much Vader, how much Anakin is in this episode, what's happening with the Grand Inquisitor, how much more of a role does he have in this show,
right?
Which I hope is a big one, because he's a big character to put in this show, even if not everybody loves exactly the way he's translated it. He's got to be in it, and you can't just have him there. And then Leia, how much further involvement does she have? I think those are the three big things to talk about. If you think of something else that you want to predict and speculate on, let us know down in the comments. Let us know what you thought of our thoughts, what you think will happen in episode 3, all that good stuff down below. If you haven't yet, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for much more Star Wars content. Check out all of our Celebration coverage, as well as our Obi-Wan episodes 1 and 2 reviews. How to Adapt Kenobi's up there. We also have a ton of stuff in our Obi-Wan playlist if you want to check out all of our Obi-Wan content we've done over the month of May, and we'll continue to do in June. We are going to do Legends Book Club soon. I think not this coming week, but the week after. Because our Friday videos are now getting shifted around a lot with the release schedule of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Right. But we will be having a review for episode 3 out on Wednesday morning, as well as predictions and speculation for episode 4 on Friday morning. So much, much, much more Obi-Wan content coming, and you're going to want to stick around with Star Wars Labs for all of it. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.